Hello, welcome back to the IGCSE ICT websites videos, and in this video we are going to work with tables. You have seen table before when you are working with spreadsheets. Now we're going to add tables to our website. We are going to divide the video in 4 steps. Step 1 will be creating a simple table where we have no visual borders to visual borders. Then step 2 will be adding headers and footer to the table. As you can see, headers here indicate the column name and they have a particular style that focus our attention in these names here. Step 3 will be collapsing those borders so that we can see only one single border. This is the type of table that we would normally see when we create tables in a Word document or an spreadsheet. After that, our final step will give us the result of this video, which is creating a table that is particularly center aligned to our website, that have headers and footer, that has captions, as you can see here, that also change the style of the borders and the width and height of the table. The width to allocate certain percentage of the website for the table, and the height of the first row, the heading row, to differentiate this row from the others. As we mentioned, part 1 have 2 steps. Step 1 is to create a simple table, and step 2 is activating the borders for this simple table. We are going to create a new file. We need to specify that the instruction will be HTML in this new file that we just create. There are 2 methods of doing this: that you hardly write all the instructions, or that you use the auto-completion of Sublime Text. For example, in Sublime Text, if you write HTML and you click enter, it creates for you the basic division of this of the website. And now in our body we are going to create the simple table, the one without the borders, or be the one with the borders no visible. To do this, we are going to use the table tab, and inside of the table tab we are going to create our rows and columns. Just before we do that, we can see that there is something in all of the tables here. This is called the caption. So we need to write what is this table about, or what will be a name for this table. So we can, inside of table, type caption, and in caption we are going to use colors. If I save this and refresh my website, now you can see the caption. Okay, so let's get our hands dirty creating the rows and columns. Tables are created by row, which means that this is the most important element, and inside of it you have the different columns, or table data as they call it for the tag. We need to create our rows, and inside of the rows we pull our 2 columns in this case, or 2 data. The first one is red, so table data red, and we close, and 20, 35, 36%. So we have table data 36%, close, and it close. When we refresh this and we go to our website and refresh, now you can see that you have the caption and you have the 2 columns, or the 2 data in the row 1. We are going to add our comments to indicate that this is row 1 of table 1, because we're gonna have multiple tables. So we call this part 1, and we close our comment. Okay, now the beauty of this is that you can reuse your code. For example, this is row 1, right? I will copy row 1 and I will paste it again. I will just change this for row 2 and I will add in the data or in the column for row 2 the corresponding information. In this case, green and 23%. Look that you were able to create row 2 easily because you can reuse row 1. You can do the same for row 3. By default, the borders are off, so we just need to turn on the borders, and that happens in your table. This is table for step 1. We can add our comment for this as well. Part 1. Okay, and here inside of the tag, table tag, we are going to add borders, and we are going to define as 1 to turn them on. You can refresh and you see that now your table have borders. Don't worry that they look like double borders. We are going to change that later when we get to step 3 or part 3.
In part 2, we are going to move from having a table with borders to have a table with header and footer. To do this, we can recycle the table that we built before, or we can create everything from scratch. We are going to create our table, and inside of the table, we are going to have 3 different sections: table head, table body, and table foot. Table head will allow us to create the headers, table body, where we are going to include all the data, and table foot, where we have our last row. The table head is the part where we have the column names, as you can see in this table, and those column names will be center aligned and bold as the style that it will have. To do this, we need to create our row using tr as before, and inside of the row we're going to have our column td. However,
if we do this and we refresh our website, we see that they don't have the style that we were talking about. They are not in bold. Instead of td here, we need to have th of table head instruction, in this case the tag. When you save this, refresh your website, you see that now they have the style. We already know that we need to include the borders, so we are going to give the borders. In order to this table have a differentiation from the previous table, we are going to add the heading between them. So this can be heading that will be table with headers and footer. We save that, we refresh. Now you can see the next table here. Okay, now we complete the table head session. We need to complete the table body session and the table foot session. These have this information, so let's complete that real quick. That was step 2. Then part 3 session here, what it does is that we are moving from having a table with double borders to have a table with single borders. To do this, we need to start using styles in our HTML document. The correct practice, or the most appropriate one, is to create a different separate file, as CSS file, with all the styles for our website. For headings, for tables, for body, for paragraph, for everything. However, in this scenario, and for this kind of exercise that only asks you to create a table that looks like this, we are going to be writing the style within the HTML file. To do this, for example, I want to set the style to this table that we have right here. So I go where I create this table, is here. When I have my table, I want to, inside of the table tag, I want to write style. And within these quotations, I will specify all of the different styles that I want to apply to this table. For example, I want to collapse the borders. So I see something that is called border collapse. By default, the value of this is separate. But if we see separate means that you are separating the different cells from everything, so that's why you have double borders. If you change this to collapse, you will notice that now you have single borders, and that will complete the transition from part 2 to part 3. To the last part, which is center our table in our website, change the border to a thicker, the outside border to thicker version, and change the height of the cells, the first row, and adjust our table to a certain percentage of the width of the website. So since we are here, the first thing that we want to do, because we talk about borders, is to have here, after the last thing that we saw that was collapse, we want to create border, and we want to make a solid, and 2 pixels is okay. You can play with this. For example, you can say 2 pixels and see how thick it is. We want to set the width of the website to a percentage in our the width of the table to a percentage in our website. So here you have, after border, you finish this instruction, you want to write width, and you want to use the percentage, for example 80%. Look what happened when I refresh. Our table adjusts to 80% of the website. If I make this website windows bigger, the table will also be bigger, which is not happening with the previous tables, because their width is not based on the percentage of the website. It's a fixed width. Now, what we want to do is to align this to the center. So again, after width and within the quotation marks for style, we want to align the margin, and we want to margin left, we want to align to auto, and the same with margin right. We want to align to auto. When we do this and we refresh, we see that is center align. So now the only thing that we are missing is to adjust the height of the first row, the heading row. So this is the one that says fruits sales. Here you can identify by table head, and in the row section of this table head, we want to change the height. The height, the same as the width here, is part of the style instructions. So I first indicate that is a style instruction, and then I will change the height. So here I see the height, and I will set it to 60 pixels. Now, when I do this and I refresh my here and I refresh, I see that the height of this first row is more than the others, and is basically 60 pixels. What did you learn today? Well, you went from creating a simple table with no borders to having a table that is perfectly center aligned in the website, have captions, have headers, have footers, have table body. It has a specific width and a specific height for the first row, and it looks great.